And this is called Similacrum Rebirth. Now, some of you from last month may remember, uh, I guess, David Hawley read Similacrum. So this is basically a continuation where we stopped last month. So we'll start with the characters. We have the first character will be Helier, who was a 38-year-old male astronaut from the northwestern continent, played by Mark
Biaggi. Yeah.
And Karis is a 38-year-old female astronaut from the southwestern continent, played by Kathy
Dorr.
Right. And Lucan, who is Helier's gifted father, played by Brad
Slavic.
Okay. And Gratis is Helier's crafty 40-year-old brother and fellow astronaut, played by Chris. And I will be the narrator. Now, the setting is 2 months after supervolcanoes erupt on the planet Similacrum's north and south poles. The skies are dark and transparent, and the transparent-skinned inhabitants are torn asunder. A hodgepodge group of military and civilian survivors successfully guides astronaut Helier and Harris to Sanctuary Island. Once ashore, ground crews immediately whisk Helier and Harris to the infirmary. Shortly after medical crews tend to Helier and Harris, Gratis joins them where Lucan and Cato are already waiting at Helier and Harris' bedsides. Gratis joyfully enters the room to see the long-lost astronauts. Now, when the curtain rises, Gratis hugs the rescued astronauts who are too exhausted to stand. Gratis then sits facing Lucan and Cato as the three of them are huddled between Helier and Karis.
Hey, little brother, that was some fancy flying. I couldn't have done better myself.
What took you so long? Did you stop for a drink along the way?
No, but it felt like it. I have to tell you, I beat your altitude by 3,000 feet.
173,000 feet. That's amazing.
I thought so. I also hold the record for the fastest ascent to tethered airship. And even more amazing, I made contact with survivors from the Salt Flat Air Force Base. They should arrive in about 96 hours aboard the transformed Luna.
How'd you think to use the blimp as a radio transmitter?
Actually, we got the idea from Dad's bedtime story about a space elevator.
Well, Dad's goofy stories were actually useful.
As long as it worked, I'm happy.
I have to go now. The doctors want you to rest. We'll see you all in the morning.
Gratis, Lucan, and Cato move the beds closer together, then hug Helier and Karis before they leave the room. Helier and Karis continue their conversation.
Your brother left in such a hurry, I didn't even get a chance to thank him for saving our lives.
Yeah, he saved us, but you saved me. I would have gone nuts alone up there.
You're the reason I didn't take a giant leap to surface. You saved me too.
Karis extends her hand to Helier. It takes all their strength to hold hands.
You'll have plenty of time to thank Gratis. The doctors give us a month to recuperate.
It's nice to finally meet you, Helier.
The feeling's mutual, Charis.
While Helier and Karis rest, Lucan, Cato, and Gratis continue speaking in the room down the hall. The room has a perfect view of the once beautiful tropical ocean. Now the view is dismally marred by the thick volcanic ash in the skies.
Why didn't Karis's parents join us in the infirmary?
You just missed them. The doctor didn't want any more than 4 visitors in the room, so Karis's parents left when they heard that you were about to arrive.
Some of the crews are going to party through the night. Tomorrow there'll be a party in your honor. You are the hero today. You've got to thank before bringing our kids home. Got you to thank for bringing our kids home.
It took all of us to bring them home. Don't you think I was scared to death going up there in complete darkness? If the tether snapped, you could have easily lost me, like we nearly lost Karis and Helier 2 months ago.
And that's why you are a hero. You knew the risks and you went anyway.
You'd be a fool not to be scared. We'd have been hard-pressed to find volunteers to fly the Solus in the dark, much less in the dark and an approaching storm.
As Gratis looks outside, lightning strikes and the wind intensifies as a thunderstorm begins. Black rain dirties the landscape.
That's wonderful. We just got this base clean. Now we get to clean it again.
Look, the Air Force ground crews just got the Solus secured and they shut down the wind turbines.
Our backup batteries are fully charged, so we won't lose power.
There's something else I want to know. The ground crews who were reeling me down said Karras and Helier kept talking about alien spacemen with beige-colored skin walking on their space stations. They even claimed they spoke to them. Were they going crazy from isolation, or was there something that caused them to hallucinate?
I knew someone would eventually ask this, and I'm going to let you know a little secret. Daddy told me 14 years ago.
Lucan pulls a detailed laminated drawing from the folder and shows it to Cato and Gratis.
Daddy showed me this drawing about a week before he died.
The drawing is a portrait of a man and woman with beige skin standing side by side. Cato and Gratis look at the drawing with amazement and confusion.
Your dad was always a gifted artist. The man and woman in the drawing looked like the people Helier and Karras described.
You're putting us on. You had me going there for a moment. You drew this last night.
Look at the date and the signature on the drawing. That's Daddy's artwork and signature.
I'd recognize your dad's artwork anywhere.
That doesn't prove anything. Grandpa was a little delirious a few weeks before he died. We all know that every animal species on the planet Similacrum has completely transparent skin.
If you remember correctly, Daddy's pain and delirium suddenly and inexplicably stopped the last week he was alive. Beginning of that last week, he called me into his office and gave me this drawing. He told me aliens stopped his pain and madness. I thought he simply took too many pain pills, but as we talked, he actually seemed as lucid as he ever was when I was a kid. I checked his pills and he hadn't taken any.
Oh, come on, Dad. You, Grandpa, and Healer were always talking about your crazy dreams and ghost stories.
Gratis, I've seen your grandpa, Lucan, and Helier talk about things that they saw in dreams, and many of them came true. As much as you want to deny it, you've seen it too.
I'm a scientist. We all are. We can't go on coincidence and blind luck or dumb luck. That's all it is, dumb luck.
Did you wonder how I just happened to come up with a plan to get you above the ash and bring Helier and Charis home before they ran out of food and water?
Call it what you want, Gratis, but the three of them do have a keen intuition, or maybe dumb luck, as you put it.
Here's the other part I didn't tell you. While the helicopter brought us and Helier back to Sanctuary Island, I showed Daddy's drawing to Helier. He put a finger over my lips to shush him, and he nodded and yes with a smile when he saw the aliens. Charis did the same thing in the infirmary when no one else was looking.
The spaceman's just the power of suggestion. The doctor said the CO2 in their blood was slightly elevated. That and the isolation with the fear of dying alone in the dark made them a little goofy. Helier wanted so bad to see someone. His desperation rubbed off on Karras.
What about them?
Lucan points to the window. Two bright silvery figures emerge from the black frame and stand outside the window. Cato and Gratis fearfully jump backwards. Cato and Gratis smile at the sight of a handsome man with tan skin, brown hair, and striking solid blue eyes, and a beautiful fair-skinned brunette with solid ebony eyes. The mysterious strangers wave to the speechless Cato and Gratis. Before they are inexplicably yanked up and away from Sanctuary Island in the blink of an eye. Cato and Gratis turn back to Lucan. Gratis looks especially humbled.
All these years, I thought you were exaggerating.
And now you know he wasn't.
See, you learn something new every day.
The end. Thank you very much. Now, hopefully that'll answer your question for some of you who remember the reading from last month.
All right, discussion time. What strikes you about Nathan's play?
not
I'm
too sure it's a
wishing.
play.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Brad.
I'm not too sure it's a play. This seems to, especially with last month, it seems that this would work better as a screenplay or something.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of how he wrote it, because I remember when kind of one of the suggestions from David Holly, because I said I'm new to all this, so I kind of wrote this a little bit differently. trying to copy it after some of the samples I've seen.
There used to be a science fiction play festival in LA that a friend of mine used to run, and they would produce something. I mean, they would include something like this there. So there is not a huge amount of science fiction material that is adapted to stage. Most of it is for screenplay. So, but I could see this being done as a stage play there, with a small set that is the interior of the base or whatever, and then the stuff outside the window. There's ways to play with this. I think it could be done both as a screenplay, I think, as well as a stage play, but it is much less common to see science fiction and fantasy on the stage. But it does exist, and people do some really wonderful things with it when it happens. So it's nice. I'll tell you, as a big science fiction fan and someone who's involved for 35 years with Comic-Con in San Diego, I've always loved to, and a thespian, I always loved to see science fiction in theater. So
Yeah,
I don't know how you're going to do the translucent skin on stage, though.
Right, well, originally the idea was to try to adapt this for, the Science Center had their 5-minute film shorts or film festival. Only trouble is, I know a good photographer, but the only trouble is she won't do motion pictures. So it's like, shoot, well, but the other
got a little more than 5 minutes there, buddy.
But I also, one other thing I forgot to do about this is
You need a bit of it. You need a bit of editing if this is scene
Right. Oh, yeah.
5 of many, and you're trying to get into 5 minutes.
we do about 10 minutes or 8
You
minutes.
got a web series. You got a web series instead, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I think it'll work well.
But I think the other thing would be difficult about this is that for also those of you who remember from last month's reading, this planet's supposed to be under an ultraviolet sun. I'm thinking, oh great, we have to film this under like one of the old black lights from the 70s. Or remember the bug zapper lights?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Everybody go home dizzy.
black
I
light.
wish I'd been here last month because I feel like I got the sense that I'm missing out on a whole lot of world building.
You missed quite a bit of left. There were basically David Holly read 2 chapters of it last month.
This is what I get for jumping in halfway through a series.
Been there, done that.
Yes.
And it's gonna have to be with each one.
Speaking of black light, there used to be back in the 80s, 70s or 80s, there was like a whole theatrical thing stage of basically just using black lights and black light effects. Long time ago.
Oh yeah, that's about when I remember back when they had the bug zappers, everyone was going out and buying one.
I was involved with that group.
Sorry?
They were called the Celestial Theater with Bill.
Yes.
Bill, I can't remember his name. And Charlie Hovelman, who works at the Science Center. Yeah. I was a narrator for them as well. Blacklight, and people sit out in the backyard at night and get a little high. And they had a continuing story of this dragon.
Well, we didn't do the high part. We just love making fun of everybody under there.
So, it's perfectly acceptable at the writers group to be reading a screenplay or a teleplay or whatever as well. So this doesn't necessarily have to be penned for the stage. But with that in mind, we need to keep the dialogue moving along. But what specific things could you offer, Nathan, for any format, whether it be teleplay, stage play, screenplay?
I think in some of these instances, there's a little bit of repetition in the narrative. I think tightening your narrative a little bit. Well, I mean, the narrative and the dialogue, really the dialogue is what I'm talking about, that there's a little bit of repeat of themes there. And I think some of that can be done through subtextually. But I think you could do it a little bit tighter if you want to do it for either film or stage. I think it's show me, less tell me about some of the stuff. And I think some of this is backstory that you're communicating in this particular scene though. So that's kind of important to set the stage on that, to bring the surprise at the end that this is real. But I think just tightening the dialogue a little bit, and there were a few instances I think where the mom said something, or somebody mentioned 3 different characters, and you don't even have to go through all of that again. You can just say they, and stuff like that. Just little things like that. I think it's just practice in tightening the dialogue is all.
Okay.
Very good suggestions. But unless anybody else has something concrete to give to Nathan, we'll turn it over to you. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we move on to the last play?
Well, actually, I am kind of impressed that you thought it would be more of a screenplay, because I said when I spoke to David, that was what I was going for.
Mhm. Okay, good. Well, thank you for bringing the play in. We're so glad that you did. And yeah, bravo.